See how it works?
Okay, we're recording.
Yeah, I know. I cut it up so I know what it is.
I mean, I would love not to have to do that. Might have to get It'd be great with that. Yeah.
What's that one day, did they what?
That's Vermont.
I don't know.
You see Barber Road?
Robert's gonna have to inspect it.
Well, they must have had it in the budget.
Oh, was
They must have discussed
The
it.
thing is that they were.
Yeah, but it must have been, I'm sure it was budgeted for the,
I got.
yeah. How much?
5 or 6 texts today from people.
Yeah. 65,000. That must have been in the budget. Yeah. Is this,
Let's do it. Now is the time.
this must be a truck time around, right? And that would afford, I don't know what a 550 XL is. Yeah, it has to be, it can't be the big.
Did anybody else want to address?
Oh, it is? Okay. Okay.
These people are again, just time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I knew we had a lot of bad ones. I know. Yeah. Yeah, right.
That was what he was. Never mind.
I thought I remember when we talked, he decided to do the trucks instead of doing something else. Yeah. Right, and I think that's why we were able to get to it. I think that's probably had a. Yeah, yeah.
Is that little boulevard thing on? It's not on here. Are you gonna add it? We can add it as unfinished or new business or something and talk about it.
Yeah, I'm just trying. Most of these should go pretty quick.
I don't think much of this is gonna be.
Yeah,
We'll just bring it up.
That's with the law.
finished.
Yeah, and I know, I remember when you said
But you know what irritates me.
you're not out of in, right?
You know what irritates
I
me.
thought so.
That's what irritates me.
You just completely forgot. Yeah.
You guys good?
Right. We wonder where you
Ready?
went.
You guys good?
Yep, we're good.
Dan, you guys good?
Rap the gavel, he'll sit down.
I now call the Norton City Committee work session to order Monday, April 16th, 2018, time 7 p.m. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gaynor,
Here.
Mr. McLone,
Here.
Mr. Courant,
Here.
Mr. Towsley,
Here.
Ms. Whipke,
Here.
Mr. Kernan,
Here.
Mr. Pelot.
Here. Committee work session, general topics of discussion. The first item is Income Tax Review Board, and that would be Mr. Towsley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not exactly sure what was intended to be spoken about this tonight.
Yeah, I think it was more just because we were waiting on that letter that I was getting from Suzanne Boyer.
Okay,
You all should have that now.
right.
So I guess if,
So we have that letter, we have the proposal of Mr. Markey, and we're still searching for one more.
yeah, we still need one more.
Beyond
The two that
The two,
Mr. Markey
okay, all right.
and Suzanne Boyer.
okay.
Now, I do have a question on that, maybe for you, Mr. Markey. If a need were to arise now, and once we, in theory, we named the two people that are on there, would we have a quorum to still meet, or do we need that third person?
Two would provide a quorum to meet, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I had a question as well.
Okay.
After listening, and I don't know the lady at all, but I was just wondering with her past business interest, that she's never had anything to do with the city for the last 5 years?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other discussion on this? All right. We'll move on then to the purchase of the one-ton dump truck.
Well, what was the idea to do legislation to appoint her, or
We already have that. We've already given it.
Oh, that was the
its
first reading, right? And we were just waiting. Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. Purchase of the one-ton dump truck, Mr. Krant.
Yes. I spoke to Mr. Hess and just a little bit ago to Mr. Messner, and it sounds like we're sorely in need of a dump truck. We currently have a Ford that's a 1996 or 97 that's costing us service-wise for repairs thousands of dollars, is my understanding from Mr. Hess. And by the end of the year, they're hoping to retire that and take it out of service. So this is a replacement. And Mr. Messner, do you have anything to add?
Yes. This is coming from two vendors. The truck and chassis is coming from Ganley Ford down on Barber Road. The stainless steel bed is coming from ARM Equipment. And so far, financing, the best rate I have is with Huntington Public Capital. And I'm looking at a 4 or 5 year lease rate, depending on what we can get the better rate on. But that, financing rates are like gasoline, they're going up and down every day. So I don't think we need to rush to do an emergency. I think we can take 3 readings for this. I don't sense for Mr. Hess that we're in danger of losing the truck or the bed. Council has all of the information with the pricing, and the service department is in pretty desperate need of this. They use these type of trucks for a lot of road patching and stuff like that, hence the stainless steel bed. And that, so,
Ron, was this budgeted for this year because they knew it was coming? Is this a surprise that?
no, it's kind of yes and no, Mr. McGlone. What happened is that we actually, this is going to be a lease purchase, and there is monies left over after we purchased the 3 other vehicles for service. There is enough money left
Okay.
to make a first-year lease payment on this. So that, if we do this, that'll basically give him 4 new trucks. We've made a really good dent into some of our aging fleet that they've just been saddled with over the years. So, and we got a good buy on this. So he's worked hard. He's searched all over the state. This is the best competitive price. He's had prices much higher than this, but
Okay.
these were the best quotes that we received.
Okay.
I've got a couple of questions. maybe they'd be better for Mr. Hess, but maybe one of you guys can respond, I don't know. I thought I recalled Mr. Hess back a couple months ago saying he was trying to go with one brand, and I think to make the repairs easier, and those were Western Star, if I remember right. Is this an issue with the Ford, or
No,
That was the snow trucks, the big, heavy-duty
this
snow
won't be
trucks.
used for snow?
well, it will.
It can.
It's more the little dump truck you see out here that Vern drives. You'll typically see it in the park in the summertime.
Okay.
And they don't. The Western Star doesn't make a small dump truck like that, so that's why we went with the Ford.
Okay, great, thank you. And then one other question for you, Mr. Messner. I know you said the rates vary, but on the example you gave us, a 4-year rate would be about $2,000 cheaper throughout the life of the loan, is that correct?
Yes, 3.99 for a 4-year rate, 4.06. Not a real big spread, but just 3 weeks ago, we finished up the lease purchase of our new Squad that we're going to be taking delivery on this Thursday. It was 2.9. So it can fluctuate pretty rapidly. So we might get lucky, it might fall. And if it looks like that as we're going through, if we've got 1 or 2 readings and the bank calls and says, hey, I've got a cheap rate, I may come back and say, do you want to waive readings to get a cheaper rate and save interest? I would certainly
So
bring that
based
back.
on what you just said, is that, are rates a little bit higher right now than they've been?
They have.
Okay.
Yes, they've escalated. But there again, Mr. Towsley, tomorrow they could come back down.
right.
They're up and down every day. It's just the way the market is.
When it says we're getting a $10,000 discount, is that due to the cooperative purchase program?
I believe it is. Off
So-
the state, both of these are coming off state pricing, so,
So they're not giving us any extra, any more than what they have to,
Right.
unlike Fred Martin does.
right.
And this will be what, the third one we've gotten from them?
That is correct.
And what's the time frame to have the bed put on the chassis and take ownership once this would go through?
It's my understanding that as soon as council passes, he would place the orders and then work that out between the two manufacturers to get that accomplished. I'm not sure if that's a week or two. Both of them are fairly local, so I would not suspect that it would take a long time, but I don't have a definitive time frame on that.
And would this has no equipment on it for snow plowing, correct?
That's correct. As I understand it, you'll recall that they bought two 250s, and one of those does have the plow. In fact, they may both have plows. It's possible that if something happens to one of those trucks, these are interchangeable plows, they could take it off the 250 and put it on the 550. So they're interchangeable and probably would go back and forth with those as necessary.
And I'll say I did confirm that today.
What's that?
That they're interchangeable?
That they are interchangeable. That was one of the reasons I got this particular one, was they were able to refit that.
So this would have he said that it would have the hydraulic attachments and everything where they could just exchange plows, you mean?
That's my understanding from talking to Mr. Hess today.
Okay, that sounds good. That's what it should be.
I don't know that is a true statement.
I don't either.
What's that?
I don't think this has the hydraulics and mounts and everything up front. This has nothing, correct? This is just a
No,
base truck.
The truck that we're purchasing has none of that.
Yeah, that's what I
think
thought.
What Mr. Krantz saying is that it could be taken off very quickly and it will fit the
Right,
new-
all
new
the
truck.
hydraulics would
Yes,
have to
every-
be taken off, the
just take
mounts,
off
everything.
One piece.
Not
mount.
just the plow, but everything?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just
Sharp.
looking to clarify that. It sounded like they just thought it was the plow that had to be changed.
Which our mechanic can do.
Okay.
Yeah,
He can take care of that.
okay.
So it is still interchangeable, it's just
More work.
a little more?
We'll work it more.
Okay.
Change it over.
Any other discussion on this?
I guess that kind of leads me to just one more question. You say they're interchangeable, but do we have enough plows for every truck, I guess is the bottom line?
No.
Do we need to get one?
And from what I understand, we don't. This is
Okay.
more just as a backup if one of those other trucks would fail or happen to have a mechanical breakdown or whatever, we could easily take off one, put it on the other, and just keep going.
So Mr. Hess is at least currently satisfied with the fleet he has for snow plowing?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, it's part of the, I think when he was here at budget time, he's doing a much better job of looking at his fleet and trying to improve his capital, put his capital plan together, and we're making a really good inroad this year to get him kind of off the ground and going.
I guess just to add to that, Mr. Hess and I, we spoke a few months back, and that was part of what we discussed was the service department seems like it had been neglected for a little while, and now we're in need of quite a few items. So we're might seem like we're buying a lot of items for the service department, but that's because it's been neglected. We're trying to get things to the point where we can start like a rotation process. Mr. Fowler and I were discussing it as well to get things on a nice rotation. That way we're not spending this much money in one area in the future, but just kind of a FYI.
Then, if I could, I'd like to move that we make a motion that we add 48, 2018 to the agenda for next week.
I'll second.
I have a motion and second to add ordinance 48, 2018 to next week's agenda. Is that with emergency?
No.
Emergency just
if I
means,
may, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I understand the desire to have more than one reading, but I think emergency language would allow it to go into effect as soon as it's passed and signed, as opposed to waiting the 30 days.
I see what you're saying.
So I certainly don't have any objection to letting it go one or two readings, although I would hope we could maybe waive the third, but I think it should be emergency.
That's acceptable to me. If that's using the wisdom of past years, I'll play
Well, I wouldn't call it that, but
that's exactly where I was going with it. So
I just need a re-second. I'll still second.
all right. So we do have a motion and a second with the emergency. Roll call, please.
Mr. Courant,
Yes.
Mr. Towsley.
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor.
Yes.
All right. Next item on tonight's agenda is transfer approval, which falls underneath my committee. Finance is looking to transfer $696,500 from the general fund into various funds, just putting it into specific funds that, if I'm not mistaken, the state auditor had requested of us several years ago now.
It's basically, the Director of Finance watching the cash position report, which you get a copy of each month, and you can look at your cash position report whenever you get home or look at that. You'll see that there are several of these that have been writing in negative balances. Technically, and I say technically, the state auditors would like to see a positive cash balance in every account every month. I've talked to a lot of my colleagues, and I don't find anybody that actually ever does that. Some people only do it once a year. Some do it semi-annually, some do it quarterly, and some do it, monthly, but very few. I try to just kind of keep an eye on it, and, when I build up a number of them, then I try to do that. And so I haven't deviated in my 4 years as Director of Finance. But one other thing that I would help council with, and I apologize for this, Ms. Whipke brought this to my kind attention. that I've actually listed the funds, but I did not tell you what funds they were. So if you will take your pencil, I will give you the departments that those actually pertain to. 102 is the service department. And as you're aware, service only gets income for about a third to of its budget, and we always have to help it with the general fund. And right now, they are cash poor about $500,000 in that. Fund 110 is the DARE fund. Fund 112 is the law enforcement fund. Fund 113 is the DWI enforcement fund. And Fund 506 is New Park Drive Fund. And Fund 771 is debt service, one of the debt services. We actually have three of them, 771, 772, and 773, but this is the primary one where we pay interest, which is coming up here in the 1st of June, so I'm kind of getting ahead of the curve for that one. The rest of these pretty much all have negative balances that I would seriously like council to consider putting it on the agenda next week and then passing with one reading, because I really would like to make these this transaction before the end of April, so that when we close April, all of these accounts will be in a cash positive position.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Messner?
And Ms. Whipke, I will do my best to put those down in the future so you don't have to guess.
Thank you.
All right. Hearing none, then I will move to add ordinance 49, 2018 to next week's agenda with emergency. And we will probably end up waiving some readings there to get this done before the end of April. So,
I'll second.
Are we looking to waive second and third?
we'll look at it when we give it its reading, but more than likely,
I mean, it's just transferring money.
I just
between
got to look
funds,
to
so.
see here.
You're almost
Yeah,
gonna-
it's
you're almost gonna have
23rd,
to
so
do-
we only have one more meeting,
We have
so.
one more.
Yeah, we'd be looking to waive the second and third on that. All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pelot,
Yes.
Ms. Whipke,
Yes.
Mr. Kernan.
Yes.
The next item is a budget amendment, which also falls under mine, and that's to amend the budget by $138,000 to fund the paving for Brookside Little and part of the engineering study to repave New Park Drive. Mr. Messner, anything to add on that?
You fit it exactly on the head.
Anyone have any questions on it?
So where the budget will be up to $970,000 for paving, give or take.
We're approaching $1 million.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So to clarify, New Park Drive is just for a study at this point, correct?
Correct. The engineering.
What-
Not a
what's-
study, but it's
what's
engineering.
What's approximately the amount to that split out of the little and the engineering costs?
Well, if you remember, we passed the ordinance for 80, I think it was 80,000 plus
80 something.
88.
Okay.
I think it was 80 plus 8,000 contingency for the paving for, remember, we did Little, Shellhart,
Right.
and Brookside. I think it was 88.
And it's about
Oh, so-
50 for the engineering, Robert.
49,000
That's what I was
is the
looking for, the
engineering.
engineering.
Yes, 49,000 for the
Okay,
engineering.
thank you.
And remember, we
Yeah,
we do that so we can score points on the grant application,
Right.
having it designed beforehand.
So, we're approaching $1 million on the roads, but boy, we could use a lot more. There's a lot of roads out there that are in bad shape.
Yes, there is.
So we're going to have to, as council and administration, we're going to have to look for other sources.
But don't forget, too, this is just out of the road fund. This
Right.
doesn't include Cleveland-Maslin. When you put
Right,
that
yeah,
on top of it,
that's
that's
true.
almost another $1 million. So
That's
now
true.
we're approaching $2 million.
2 million, yeah, yeah. So, okay.
Did New Park Drive actually flood in this incident last year? And-
Everything flooded.
Yeah, it's,
And is this engineering going to be looking at taking care of that as well? I don't want to be paying for a road and then it's still flooded.
this is just raising the road, isn't it?
We haven't decided yet on the design of the road, but we're going to have to mitigate some of this flood issue. One of the issues we have is the water's coming back up through the storm sewer, which is causing the flooding. So we need to mitigate that however we can.
Well, I don't know how we mitigate that unless we get people further up the river
Well,
who are
that's-
willing to
yeah,
work
that's
with
how we
us.
do it.
I mean,
Agreed.
quite
Agreed.
frankly,
Well, we do it.
it's got to
by
do. That's got to be done.
Moving ahead with the Wolf Creek watershed.
And I'm
And
not-
doesn't seem to be a,
I'm not sure the
Well-
watershed's going to be the solution.
I think it is.
They just,
Well,
we don't have a say in that.
We need to be
That group.
working. We need to be working with our neighbors to the north of us to be figuring this out because it all dumps down here.
Yep.
I would just reassure council that we have had many conversations, some of which have changed every other month. But I can assure you that we've had conversations and we are on the precipice of a decision to bring to you a recommendation to move forward.
Well, I can't wait to hear it because I've been around this place for 20 years now. So, yes, right?
And after today, I can tell you that this can't happen soon enough.
I agree.
Right.
Okay. Anyway,
All right. So any other questions on this piece of legislation for the budget amendment?
no.
Hearing none, then I will.
Can I just ask one question?
Yep.
This is for paving, correct?
It's for paving in the engineering
Paving
study.
And the engineering. So,
study.
do we need this
Yes.
quickly so that we can
I need to
add it in?
appropriate this
Okay.
so
All
I
right.
can
Okay.
be
Thank
ready,
you.
because we're getting, I'm
Yeah.
not exactly sure how soon they'll do up there, but I know we need the money to do the engineering.
Well, the
study.
robins are chirping, but snow's still falling. But I mean, we're getting there. We're
Yeah, I
getting
was going to
close.
say, I heard 3 to 4 inches of snow tomorrow night or something insane. And it's like,
Bite your tongue.
Well, yeah.
All right.
Would this be fund then 506 that it'd be going into, or is this something else altogether with the Newport Drive?
It's actually going into Fund 170 because it's road.
Okay. You?
including the study? I mean, the whole amount would go into?
170, yes.
All right.
All right. I will move to add ordinance 50, 2018, with emergency waiving second and third to council's next agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda this evening is the Morgan Stanley investment update. Looks like we've made a little bit of money there, the $70,810.95. I'll let you talk about that, Mr. Messner.
Council will recall that about a year ago, just prior to April, Mr. Markey and I worked on a new investment directive, and I basically was not, and I think I indicated this to council at the time, I was not making sufficient monies through our main banker, which is Huntington Bank. I was getting less than 0.25%. And so I met with Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley gave me a plan that indicated that for the most part I could be earning anywhere from about 1.8 to 2.7, 2.8 over 2 to 3 year time period. So I moved, at the time, we had about $10 million, and I moved about half of the funds out of Huntington over to Morgan Stanley. This is the first year. We've come to the first year, and as Mr. Pilot has indicated, interest income through March to March was $70,810.95. The projections for the same time, April through March next year, is 106. So the portfolio continues to grow and continues to do well, and that just helps us. It's basically putting our money to work, which I believe is part of my responsibility. And so I had a very pleasant meeting with the Morgan Stanley and told him, keep going, make me more. I wouldn't mind getting 4 or 5%.
Well done, Mr. Mester.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely.
Well done.
And just for the public's information, those funds are secure. They're federally backed.
That's correct.
So where does the investment income actually go? Into the general fund, or?
Yes, it, as a matter of fact, it does.
All right. Anything else on that, Mr. Messner?
No, I just wanted to report back to council, and as I get reports and I'll also give you, if it goes south for a while, which I hope it doesn't, I'll give you the good, the bad, the ugly, but I always like to give you the good reports.
Well, we like to hear that every now and then.
I guess, would this be almost like your personal portfolio where you have someone watching your money? So let's say that the market starts to appear to be taking a turn. Are they going to come to you and say, hey, you know what, let's pull this? Or do they have the directive to go ahead and do that anytime that's necessary? How's that work?
I believe we've given them, they don't have carte blanche, but I would say they're very communicable. I hear from them quite often. There's a team, there's 2 main people that I work with that are watching this, day by day by day. They've pretty much set us up, though, in those positions that don't do a lot of spiking, in that they're pretty steady. Not that something couldn't change or whatever, but they usually get enough advance notice that if they see it's going to take a tremendous dip, they'll call and say, I'm recommending that we move from this to this, and I'll approve in that. But they do have some directive to stay on top of this on our behalf.
Okay. All right. Moving on, contract for Houston Road repair also falls under finance. Looking to authorize the administration to enter into a contract with Sable Services, not to exceed $12,500. What this was what we had discussed last week with going after the insurance company for the damage that was done to the road, and this is to repair that section of the road. Obviously, we'll continue to pursue it on the legal side, but we still have to fix the road, and that's what this is for.
Okay, the ordinance itself actually says that it went before the Board of Control. It hasn't yet, has it? That's something we're going to do next week then?
It'd be next week.
I have a question.
Yes.
We've just approved a couple subjects ago some monies for roads in here for roads, assuming we went out in our lawsuit. I just want to make sure we do have the finances in case for both that other one and in case the worst case scenario happens here, correct? We're okay?
We're good.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? And same with this, sooner we get that road repaired, obviously the less damage that's going to be creating out there. So I'll be asking to waive the second and third on this. But I will move to add ordinance 51, 2018 with emergency waiving second and third to council's next agenda.
A second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Next item is the engineering study for New Park Drive, and also falls underneath finance here. It's a contract with EDG for improvements to New Park Drive, just the engineering study, and that's $45,223. And this is, Mr. Fowler, this is what we were talking about earlier.
That's correct. The engineering for New Park Drive, we've approved prior the legislation to apply for OPWC funds. We are also seeking Transportation Improvement District funds, which can be up to $250,000. So we're applying for multiple pots of money, and the engineering done beforehand allows us to score greater. Gives us a better likelihood it'll be funded.
Any questions on this one?
I don't see any emergency language on this.
It can go a couple readings. I'm not real concerned about that. Whatever the pleasure of council.
But we would want emergency.
Oh, we need
so it doesn't
emergency
have to set
language. I'm
for
sorry.
30 days.
I was meaning the way the
Yeah.
readings, but if we could get the emergency language to make it go into effect immediately, it'd be appreciative.
Yeah, I think we need to add the emergency
Yes.
language to it.
Any other questions on this?
If you look down there, you can tell it's emergency.
Oh, yeah. I will move to add ordinance 52, 2018 to council's next agenda with emergency.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Fowler, appreciate all the efforts that you and your team have been doing, trying to garner extra funds by us putting up a little bit, so nice job. Next item on tonight's agenda is support for the Norton City School District levy. Also falls under my committee. Normally, when the school has their levies, we usually do a resolution of support, just showing unity amongst the city. So, any questions on this? I have talked to Mr. Addis, and I've invited him to come to council's next meeting, which will be the 23rd, and just give a brief presentation, kind of just more factual of what the levy is. Just trying to get the proper, correct information out to the residents. Anyone have any questions on this?
I don't have any questions, but I got to have a couple comments.
All right.
That I've always said, no, no, no. This does not belong on our council floor. It's a school thing. And I don't believe it belongs here. If you want to bring me a resolution that says we want our school monies back that they've given to the charter schools and the private schools, I'm all for that. But to be putting this out there, I can't support this.
Fair enough.
If I may, Mr. President.
Yes.
We're one city. You know, I mean, we have the city government, we have the school district. We're gonna sink or swim together. You know, I understand that there are people who do not support this. I support this school levy. I think the schools are important in this city. It's one of our largest employers in this city. It's the future. I mean, these kids are the future of our city. They're the future of this country. I understand, Ms. Whipke, what you're saying, but I simply don't agree. I think it's very appropriate for council to say or to take a position that we support or don't support the school levy. And so, I mean, I think we should bring it forward. The school district in Norton has the lowest tax rate in Summit County, and they do a heck of a good job with the money that they get. And frankly, if you're looking for someone to give more money to that has managed it well, I think it's this school district right here. Now, are they perfect? Probably not. Could there be improvements? Probably. But frankly, they've done a pretty darn good job. All three of my kids went through Norton City Schools, and I'm thankful for that. And so I think that we should support the school district and support the levy.
I agree 100%. I just, I don't have any problem at all with Charlotte or anybody else not wanting to pass a school levy or not wanting to support it here. If she doesn't feel like it should be supported here, that's up to her. But I've got grandchildren in the schools. The city of Norton needs, not desires, but needs a good school system to attract businesses to our city, to attract people who work in those businesses. And without the businesses and without the taxes that come with the businesses, without the people who pay the taxes, we won't have a city. And if we don't maintain a school system that's at least excellent, no company is going to suggest that they want to move here and move their personnel here if they know their children, their personnel's children, don't have a good school system to go to. Talk to some of the communities that the state's taken over and ran and had problems with passing levies and things, and you'll see exactly what happens to the community after its school system has went to hell in a handbasket. And right now, we have one of the best schools in the entire state, not just the county. We have one of the best schools in the entire state. The curriculum is excellent. The teachers are excellent. The administration is 100% for the children and are doing everything they can possibly do to maintain schools on the funding that they have now presently. And this amount of this levy that they're asking for is, I believe, the lowest, if not one of the lowest, at least in the county, that's been asked for in a long time. Some are asking for 8-9%. I mean, mills. What the schools are asking for here is not a great deal of money when it's based on your taxable evaluation of your home. It's not based on if you have a $150,000 home, you're not paying $150. Your taxes, your millage is not based on that $150,000 home. It's based on the actual evaluation by the tax that you pay on it. So I think we as a city council and administration and everybody who works and makes a living in this city should get behind this school levy and quit fooling around with arguing on Facebook and putting out negative replies on Facebook and every other place and the newspapers and such. Do something to help the city and quit arguing about whether it's being well spent or not. Anybody that's ever had children in the school system knows that it's been well spent. So I think that we ought to absolutely pass this resolution and get on with it, get this levy passed, period.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes.
As I always do when ballot issues come before us, I will abstain from voting when this happens. It's my belief that as a representative to the citizens, I am to represent them in day-to-day business like we've just done previously, where they don't have a voice. Come May 8th, they absolutely have a voice. Therefore, I will stand out of the way and let their voice be heard by abstaining. Thank you.
Well said.
Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Mr.
yes.
Grant?
With the 5 years I spent as the chairman of the Business Development Task Force for the City of Norton, we invited and had visitors from many other communities here that weighed in on what it took to get grants, not just loans, but grants that were from different sources. And from Westlake, Mr. Klaus made a real strong point that part of it is being a business friendly, and part of it is the community, how the community might deserve to have certain grants awarded to them. And some of the grants are awarded based on whether it's points or if there was a tough decision to make between a couple recipients. This is the type of thing, good schools. And everyone was asking, as one of the qualifiers for the grants and for also businesses to relocate, what are the schools like? Jack, you're exactly right on that. And we also had the city manager from Green and the business development director from the city of Hudson, along with the Port Authority director. Each of those gentlemen, I remember, this is the type of information that they brought to us was, we need a strong community that would qualify for grants, would be business friendly, and would present well in a situation of, is this grant approvable, and are you going to be ahead of the next city that's asking for the same thing? It's a qualifier. It's sort of an intangible, but it's an important point. It affects all of us.
All right.
And I, too, agree with everyone that said anything. I don't know what more I can add, but I've had all three of my children go through Norton, and they're doing exceptionally well right now. And I do sell real estate on the side, and first question you ask, what's the school system like? And right there is a major point of selling your house. No one buys a house where the school system's failing. So that's all I got to say.
I was just going to mention that, you know, the first question, one of the first questions that realtors get, they ask about the school systems. You know, as homeowners in the city, it's what you have to be asking yourself too. You know, if the schools fail, then obviously it affects the value of your home because it's going to drop. Somebody mentioned earlier the schools being separate. It makes absolutely, it's true, but it absolutely makes zero sense to me, the division between the city and the school system. Mr. Fowler and I, the mayor and I, have had numerous conversations of trying to foster a better relationship between the city and the schools. We need to look at the community as a whole. We need to work together with the various businesses, saving them, getting businesses coming into the city, working with the schools, and everything has to operate as one. And I know that Mr. Fowler and the mayor have been working on that, so I definitely support this, and I'd like to see us continue to go ahead and try to foster that relationship and get some improvements there. Any other discussion?
If I could, I've got two pieces of paperwork I'd like to give Carrie and enter into the minutes concerning information about, more than likely, Superintendent Addis will be discussing these exact things, but I'd like to have them put into our minutes so they can see one of the reasons why I personally was in favor of this resolution and also the school levy, because of these facts. These aren't nonsense, these are facts.
If you want to pass them down, or
Please.
all right. Any other comments?
I'm sorry, here's another one.
More to come.
Any other comments on this? No. Then I will make a resolution or make a motion to add Resolution 53, 2018 to council's next agenda with emergency waiving readings.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
But it's just the committee, right?
I made the motion. It's under finance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
No.
All right. Any unfinished business?
I have just one item. We need one more person for Income Tax Review Board, is my understanding. I had brought forward the name of an individual for the other tax board, and I can't ever keep the names of the two boards separate. But he is willing, because this one I think is more pressing to have this filled, he is willing to fill the third spot on the Tax Review Board, and that's Tom Marino, who is an attorney. He lives here in town. He was on the Charter Review Board, so we have his information. But I would just ask that council consider him. I know that he's out of town right now, but I'll get some updated information from him, and he can supply that to us.
Sounds good. Any other unfinished business?
Mr. President, yes, I was reminded to kind of repeat an announcement for a town hall meeting. This has already been announced, but it's the Ward 3 Town Hall meeting, which is April 25th at 6:30 p.m. at the Norton Community Center.
All right. Anyone else? I'll bring up Little Boulevard. I know that there's some residents here tonight to discuss this. They are they're asking or requesting sewer be run down Little to service these 5 lots. And I'm sorry, was 79,000, I believe, somewhere right there in that area for the project.
73,653.
Pardon me?
73,653.
73,653. And if the city would assess the same dollar amount, it would be somewhere. Hold on 1 second. Is that
That's-
Roberts?
This is that divided by the 5.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was 16 now. Oh, I see what you're doing. So, and if we took the 11,500 by the 5 parcels, 57.5, I believe, which is roughly $16,000 difference between the two. I guess we discussed this back in December, I believe, January. At that point in time, one of the residents that owned the 2 vacant lots, they had come forward and requested sewer at that point in time, and it ended up dying at that point. Now the other 3 homeowners there are interested in tying in as well. So that takes all 5 parcels through there would be looking to tap into this. What timeline, I don't know. But if you take the difference between what the tap-in would be, the 11,500, or even if we went to 12,000 with the $500 increase, and the cost of the project, the 73,653, is $16,000. $16,000 is 22% of that project. When we had Nash Heights project going on, we were trying to see, we were trying to determine, what portion of the project should the city be picking up. And it ended up 43%, somewhere right in there. So if the city picked up a portion of this, it's still not going to be the amount that was picked up in Nash Heights. So,
Well, I mean, part of the reason that we picked up 53% was because the city was paying for things that were not assessed. So there were mains, and was the pump station, and there was I'm guessing there were other things that
The road.
probably in the roads that probably kicked that percentage up. So we can't look at the percentage. The other question I guess I have is that for all intents and purposes, this project's done, right? I mean, we just have to pave.
Correct. There
Okay.
is some minor work that's still to be done.
So
still open for a possible change order.
Correct.
So normally when we have, let's say we have a neighborhood who wants to have water or sewer put in, and we would normally tell them you need to go through the petition process and get more than 50% of the residents or whatever percentage it is of the residents to petition, and then we would go ahead with that. But wouldn't we assess them the entire amount? Isn't that the way we normally do a petitioned?
Yeah, I mean, you have the option to assess the entire amount. Usually for a petition project, you would see 100% assessment in those circumstances.
I think we've done petitioned projects here in the past, and I believe that's what we've done. Although it's been a while, I don't remember.
But I'm pretty sure it's paid 100% of divided by all the, usually on petitions.
And as I recall, Little and what's the other street, Brookside, were
Yes.
part of this project to begin with, and a past council took them out. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah, there was a little bit of back and forth about the streets over the past 3 or 4
Right.
years. Yeah, they were in and out several times.
Okay, so I guess I don't see legally any difference between this and a petitioned project.
I know that we had discussed setting a standard tap-in fee. Maybe that's the piece that we need to discuss. To me, it made no sense to remove them to begin with, and it makes no sense not to service them now.
Well, I don't have a problem with servicing them. I just,
To me, it takes care of that whole quadrant of the city and getting that sewer in. The more areas, obviously, that we can get taken care of like this is going to be less hassles for the city as a whole, less hassles for the residents. And here you have 100%. And I understand your point, but with the city putting in a portion that went for the pump house and different things like that, but part of that money was also beyond that.
so what happens when Flusher Allotment says, well, we want sewer, so run it all the way up here and we'll pay the $11,500 like everybody else and you can cover the rest of it? And I realize that legally we don't have to do that, but how do we say?
So not advocating one way or the other. This was bid as part of the project. It was designed. It was bid as an alternate. So there'd be a change order under the existing contract. You have an existing ordinance that set the tap-in rate for the project generally. This would be constructed under the current contract. So I think factually you could distinguish it, but it's up to you. I mean, not advocating for that. Just
So you're saying it does not set a precedent for further down the line?
you can make that argument. Yes.
Okay, well, and that's fair, and I'm glad to hear that, because that's my concern, and it's always my concern is, are we setting a precedent further down the line?
And I think we've already set another tap-in ordinance at the Cleveland-Maslin Road, which is a higher rate. Right? I mean, so we do have that separate precedent, separate contract, case-by-case basis where you're going to establish this rate, whether it's based on a percentage or whatever council's determining at the time. You do have that precedent.
And cities can do that.
Cities can do that.
Okay, all right.
Mr. President?
Before he starts to speak.
Yeah.
let me just-
Can you give us just a minute, and then I'll once council has opportunity to speak on this, then I'll let you go ahead and come
One
up.
of the differences.
Use your microphone, please.
Microphone.
One of the differences, Joe, what you're talking about, one of the differences is, unless I'm mistaken, unless it didn't get done the way I thought it was going to be done, there is already a lateral for Little on the north side of the street, correct? To tap into Little?
Is it stubbed out going
Stubbed
towards?
out, not a ladder.
Well,
It's
I
a
mean,
stub. It's a stub. You're
It's
correct.
available to be hooked into directly for Little, correct?
Correct.
So that right there is going to save a lot, like you're mentioning Fletcher and Fraser or wherever. If we were to run sewers out there, it's not readily available to them as it is here. And in this particular area, I'd be in favor of running it down Little because it's already right there, and we're going to pave the street. I think it would be, if it's there and they're willing to participate in the program, I think we should, go ahead and do it because it should be done for certain before the street's paved if they want it. And the two vacant lots, the two vacant properties, the way I understand it, you say they're also in favor of it?
She wrote us a letter, or we had correspondence with that property owner early on when we sent out the fringe letters in October. She was one of the first calls saying, yes, I want it.
That's what I thought, and since they are also sort of in favor of it, even if there's no houses there now to hook into, I would hope that they would put a lateral for each one of those properties. And of course, if someone builds there, they would have to tap into it because it's within 200 feet of the sewer line. So even if they changed their mind, they eventually would have to tap into it. So it would be 100% as you're talking. It would be 100% participation there. So I think we should do it.
So 100% of the residents on that street, as of tonight, want that run down there.
Well, I can't speak to the three gentlemen in the audience, but I'll wait for them to speak. But I think that these are the three other residents of that property or for that street, and that gives you 100%.
Want to see letters saying they want it, because one of the things that we talked about and I talked about was we were not going to run sewers down streets that didn't need them unless the people wanted them.
Correct.
And so if they want them, that's something else. Now, let me get this straight. When we run this, if we run this, down Little Boulevard, it's going to cost us $16,000 and that's it?
The total cost is $73,653. The tap-in at $11,500.
Right.
If we stay at that fee, the difference is $16,000.
And that'll come out of 128? Where's it come from?
Would it come out of the sewer fund?
Well, the cost would be included with the loan, so it would be paid for with the loan, back by the city over 30 years. But the repayment source is the 128 fund.
And
the
these
rollback?
residents would
That the
be
rollback?
That's rollback. That's
Rollback,
correct.
yes.
Income tax rollback.
and these residents would be required, since that loan fund is already set, they wouldn't be able to be assessed. They would need to pay up front.
That's correct. We cannot add people to the assessment proceedings at this time. I think that would invite a challenge to the assessment proceedings. We don't want that particularly for this project. We don't want anything that looks out of the ordinary. We want to just keep our assessment proceedings. You need to be included in the original resolution if you want to be assessed come this September, or if you're going to be assessed come September.
Is that within 6 months of completion? What's the timeline on it?
For when assessments occur?
That they have to hook in and pay?
I'm not sure they're going to be compelled to do it because they're not within the mandated area.
Well,
So,
see, that's a problem.
It's a good question.
I mean, to
when
me,
are we going to get paid back is your question.
yeah, I mean, that's a problem. I mean, you know, if everybody on this street wants this, and we've got 3 residents here who want it, and that's okay, I get it. I mean, you know, I get that. Then we need to have some commitment that they're going to hook up. I mean, they're going to hook up within 6 months, a year, whatever council decides, but that needs to be mandated somehow. I don't know how you enforce that or how you do that.
If
Except,
there's-
and I apologize, except for the 2 empty lots, obviously. You know.
If you would like to come up and speak, sir, give your name and address. I guess his information might be pertinent to the rest of the discussion here, and if you would give your name and address to the stenographer.
So my name's Tony LaFrazo. I'm at 3515 Little Boulevard. And I've been chosen by my neighbors here to be the spokesperson.
Lucky you.
Microphone on.
But,
Is that microphone on? It doesn't sound like it.
Tap it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You just
Okay.
have to speak into it.
very good.
Could you
No.
repeat your last name for me?
LaFrazo.
Thank you.
We're really happy that we got approval to have the streets paved because Little Boulevard's been a mess like a lot of the other streets here, so we're happy about that. You know, the other thing, we're all the original owners of our homes on Little Boulevard, with Mayor Zita included. So we do represent 100% of the street. And we figured if the street's going to be repaved, why not have the street sewer ready for the future? Okay, and it just makes sense. Because none of us know what will happen in the future with septic systems or whatever may happen. You know, all of our septic systems are in great working condition. I know I'm on a contract with All Town and Country for regular routine annual maintenance, and have been since I built my home. And I think the same holds true for Bob and Mike. And so that's what we would like to do, and it's one of the things we wanted to propose. It doesn't seem like it's a major investment for the city to do that and to make that improvement in the city. So that's what we're looking to do. And being that there's already a lateral there, this really isn't major surgery for us. As far as not being part of the assessment and being able to do that, that's a hurdle for us. So, you know, we just found out about that tonight, and that's something we're going to have to discuss as a group, I guess, and to understand that. You know, the other part of it, like you said, Councilman Kern, we're one city, okay? And I don't know if we're not part of the Nash Heights project, okay? But if we could still have that improvement and have the opportunity to tie in when the time is right, that would be great if we could have that opportunity.
So, excuse me, what I'm hearing is you want us to put the sewer in, and then whenever you get around to it and you want to tie in, then you can do it.
Well, I don't think, have you had 100% of the neighbors who are not required to tie in make the commitment to tie into the sewer?
I'm sorry, say that
Yeah,
again.
yeah. Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
So for the residents who are not required to tie into the sewer because they're not part of the Nash Heights project, do they have to tie into the sewer?
No, but the difference is that the sewer was going in front of their house anyway, so if they wanted to tie in then, they could, and then thus get involved with getting the assessments and stuff, while we had you in there, and it came to us that you guys wanted out. You didn't want it
Well,
in the
it's not
project.
that, I don't think we said that we wanted out. It's that we didn't understand what was happening at the time. This project has been going on, and these conversations have been going on for 3.5 years. I was coming to the council meetings at the very beginning of this, and you know, I was unable to come for the past 2.5 years because of my job. I was on the road building restaurants. So, you know, this is the reason why we're asking. And it sounds like that the money was spent for the engineering to have the lateral come down Little. I would like to ask, is there a lateral to come down Brookside also?
There's stub outs for those roads.
So
yes.
it's already been engineered to do this. If we're repaving the road, why not have it sewer ready? Why tear up a road that doesn't have to be torn up in the future?
Could I just ask you while you're there, if we as council decided to go ahead with the sewer on Little, are you three gentlemen willing to hook up to it?
I
Or
think-
are you saying you don't want to hook up right now? Is that what you're saying?
I can't speak for my friends, but in my case, I have an operating system that was completely overbuilt for the area. When our homes were built, the excavator who installed my system couldn't believe what we were doing. We have 3 1,000-gallon tanks and pumping stations, and I spent a lot of money to prepare my land for this system that's in great working condition right now. And for me to call an excavator to crush it, fill it in, and to spend that extra expense out of my pocket just financially doesn't make sense for me and my family. So if something's wrong with my system 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, I'll crush it, I'll cave it in, and I'll tie in.
I understand, but what I guess what I'm asking, and I think Charlotte was too, if we're willing to, as a city, to expend the funds to run that line down Little, and you're saying how long does it take to recoup the funding? Well, if these people who live there aren't willing to up the $11,500 assessment, then we would never recoup it until they hooked up, correct? I mean,
Right.
I think if we're willing as council and as a city to extend the sewer down there for you, if we're willing to send it down there, then you all should be willing to hook up to it.
So here's my difficulty, I guess. Working off of that, Jack, is let's say we were willing to run this line down. We pass legislation. We say the tap in's going to be 11.5, but the time value of money at 11.5 today is not what it's going to be 10 years from now when your sewer possibly fails. And if you guys are taking care of your sewer or your septics, they may not fail for 20 years.
Exactly.
I mean,
That's correct.
That's
None of us
the
can look
problem.
into the future.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right.
And you know what? It's an investment in the city as a whole, okay? We take pride in our homes on Little Boulevard, okay?
It's nice.
And like I said, we're happy to see the improvement to the street. This would just be another improvement that would make total sense and increase the value of that street.
Could I interject here just for a moment?
Sure.
For the fringe area folks who had the option, we passed legislation that every year they didn't tie in, it went up $500.
Correct.
I don't recall the cap, but it capped after
It
8
did
or
at
10
some
years.
point,
I
yeah.
believe after 10 years.
I think 10.
If this same situation applied to them, we would recoup all of our money.
Correct.
I think. I didn't do the math, I'm just assuming.
Right, it'd be 16,500.
But I guess the difference, Mr. Towsley, is the people on the fringe area that we were talking about, the sewer's already there. We ran it there. I mean, it's already there. It's not like we extended it for them. It's there. We just gave them the option and said, and gave this graduated schedule. I think it was $500 a year or something like that. I think that's the difference in my mind. Here, what we're doing is we're extending the sewer and expending the money, not knowing when this is going to be recouped. I mean, it could be
We did the
20
same
years down the
thing.
line.
We did the same thing on Cleveland-Maslin Road. We
Correct.
extended the sewers and gave them the same option, $500 graduating every year. So why wouldn't it be fair to assume the same in this situation if we did it?
Well,
They
I
didn't
mean,
ask for it.
That's true.
yeah, I mean, Cleveland, it was happening. I mean,
Mr. President,
And they aren't assessed either.
Yes.
if I could ask, probably Mr. Fowler's the one I need to ask this of. But we ran into a similar situation, it's different, but still similar, on Easton Road when we paved the far end of the road entirely instead of just the part that was damaged due to the work. Do we still have work crews out there presently that could be moved to add this extra work order? Or in the future, so I'm looking at the difference, would it be more economically feasible to do it now and pay a rate than have them come back later and do that work all by itself?
The benefit we have currently by making it a change order, you're basing the price, you're basing the price of this improvement on the existing bid. So the existing bid encompassed the whole Nash Heights area. So you're going to get the improvement based on all of the work that was done in Nash Heights. And I think the economy of scale is going to save you money by doing it now. Now, I can't, I'm speculating just based on the economy of scale. But I did speak to Tim Clapper, the engineer for the project from CT Consultants. The engineer has stated the contractor has stated to the engineer that they will honor the bid price per unit. So that they would, when we gave you the original estimate back, I apologize, it's so long ago, but several months prior, we gave you that estimate, I think 73, Mr. Pilot had mentioned. So they are going to honor that price should we move forward.
Mr. LaFrazo, if you don't mind me asking, how old is your home?
I believe it's 18 years old.
Oh. Okay. I thought the houses were newer than that there, so. I mean, not that that's not, I'm not trying to.
Hey, it's all right.
I thought, but.
All the homes built during the same time period?
How old are you?
All about the same time?
Yeah, we're all within a year of each other.
Okay.
Mr. Markey, you said that this could not be placed on their tax duplicate over a 20-year period. That's not possible, or is that something that council can allow if they want to?
So it's not possible to include them in the current assessment project, and
Okay.
because, I mean, maybe with a petition you could do a separate ordinance of to do an assessment, maybe, but I would not want to put them within the Nash Heights.
But then we
assessments.
would have to rebid it and everything else if it's a separate
Not with
ordinance.
a petition, because with a petition project you can waive most procedural. They're essentially waiving all the procedural protections, so they're agreeing to allow you to assess them for a cost. But I get real nervous about commingling with Nash Heights itself.
Now, when you put the assessment on the tax duplicate for 20 years, whatever, is there interest attached to that, or is that?
Yeah, the interest will attach at the same rate as the loan. So that's
All right.
one of the things we're waiting for to do the final assessment for Nash Heights is final construction costs plus the interest rate.
So if we did something like that for this group of folks on Little Drive, where we agreed to extend the line, agreed to the amount, we could pass legislation to allow them to put that on the tax duplicate with an appropriate interest rate so that, the time value of money is taken care of and the city becomes whole over time and they have time to pay it off before they need it.
I would want to have the petition
Okay.
from all four property
Well, I
owners,
want
'cause,
that anyway.
And then you could potentially do a separate ordinance. I have to think about it a little bit, but you could potentially do a separate ordinance to do an assessment just for those 5 properties.
All right. What kind of a time?
Well, it's actually 6 properties.
6 properties,
Yeah,
5 owners?
Mayor Zeta is part of.
No, it's not part of that property at this point.
But your address is Little Boulevard, right?
That is correct, but I'm getting the line off of Shellhart. That's something different.
All right.
But
if we had it, you could get it off a Little.
Well, that's
so
whether that's
any,
true or not.
whatever
is already included within the assessment proceedings.
Yeah, so he would
for
already
purposes of a
separate.
petition, it would require the 5 additional properties.
5 additional properties. And Mr. Fowler, when do we? I mean, It seems to me like 2 months ago we talked about this, and you said we're at the end of the line. We're out of time. I mean, why aren't we out of time now?
We are out of time. We're
You
up
know.
against the 11th hour at the 59th minute.
That's
But I mean, if we really can make a decision that this is the direction that council wants us to go, we can get this started.
Well,
and I say that because the pavement crew has not been mobilized.
right.
That to me is, we have that
That's the
window.
main thing.
That to me is the big window. So thank goodness it's 38 degrees today, because well, in this regard, we're grateful that it's 38 degrees, because the pavement machines haven't started. But the window's very tight. I mean, we really need, if this is to go, I would say it has to go next week. We don't have time to wait.
Well, my view is this. I mean, if the residents, if the 5 other residents want this and council wants to do this, my view is that we do it as a petition. We do it as a separate assessment. We put it onto their tax duplicates, and they pay it off over the 20 years with whatever interest rate. And then when they want to hook in, they can hook in. I mean, otherwise, I can't see the city putting this line down there and waiting 20 years for people to hook in. I don't see that.
All right.
One thing, before
Go ahead.
it slips my old mind here. If we do that by petition and allowing them to put it on their taxes, are we then not going to be obligated to, in the future, to put sewers any place they want them, any place that someone was to petition to get the sewers, then we would also have to do the same thing for them.
Council is not obligated to. A petition invites, but doesn't obligate council to do a project.
No, I'm saying, Justin, if it's like us giving them a loan in a way to install the sewers when and if they feel like it.
You're talking about when they actually have to tie in.
No, if we run the sewers now,
Right.
we're going to pay for it. The city is.
Correct.
The city's going to pay for it unless they agree to pay for it.
Correct.
Immediately. But if we petition, like Joe's talking about, then you would have to petition and do the whole thing again, the assessment board and all this like we did before.
I'll help you. We'll talk about that in a second. Go ahead. Finish your thought, and then we'll.
Okay, like we did before, and then it would be put on their taxes, correct?
Correct.
Okay, then they would not hook up, is what I'm hearing.
So there's a difference between. So I think what we're trying to figure out is how do we recover the portion of the cost that belongs to the property owner.
Right.
And
Exactly.
What the petition does is it allows the city to place an assessment on the duplicate without, you don't need to do a resolution necessity, assessment equalization board, all the other procedures. You just pass one ordinance that says we're going to assess you for this cost, and you do that cost based on final construction costs, just like everybody else that would get assessed in Nash Heights. Separate ordinance, but same type of calculation. But you wouldn't have to follow all those other procedures. That would not obligate them to tie in immediately. It would just, I think, address Mr. Kernan's concern, which is how are we going to get repaid? And the assessment covers how you're going to get repaid, but does not address when they have to tie in.
And we would also need, if we decide to go with this, look at what fee, number one, that we're looking to charge, whether it's 11.5 or we add the extra 500 for this year. There's also going to be, more than likely, a relocation fee for the equipment that is not there. That would need to be picked up by the homeowners as well. The letters were sent out a while back, giving everybody the last opportunity. I think, as was alluded to earlier, the 11th hour, 59th minute. So as those letters went out and nobody came forward, the equipment, majority of it, if not all of it, was removed. There's going to be a cost associated with bringing that equipment back. So we would also need to see what that dollar figure is.
I want to see sewers go in there. I'd like to see them go on Brookside. And I don't know, the argument or the discussion about how it's paid for or whatever is not the end of the world to me. I do want to see the sewers go in.
What I would suggest is the 3 homeowners that are here this evening, maybe contact Mr. Fowler tomorrow. As been discussed here, we'll look at it as a petition piece. Now, time is of the essence. I'm not sure if you guys are acquainted with other property owners. There's 2 others. There's 2 vacant lots. And
It's one lady.
Okay, that's one lady.
Same owner.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if we're going to offer this to these owners, why wouldn't we give the same, at least make the same offer to the residents of Brookside and say, look, we're going to pave your street, which 2 years from now, if you're going to run it down, I mean, we've been back and forth on this.
Oh, yeah.
Back and forth.
You know what?
And they said, no, we don't want in, now they want in.
So I'm not the engineer, but I think one of the differences between Brookside and Little, from what I understand, Mr. Fowler can maybe expand on this, is the gravity works on Little Boulevard in the cul-de-sac. On Brookside, the gravity doesn't work. It actually has to flow downhill and then get pumped back up by a grinder pump up to the gravity line to get. So that's my understanding of the difference between the two.
If I look at the top.
But doesn't it make sense to do that, Justin, now and have all that in, because it's in the loan, do it all once, we don't have to tear up the street again. I think if nothing else, we at least have to offer the people of Brookside, if we're going to offer them the petition rights, I think we got to offer it to Brookside as well.
Well, quite frankly, if we have to put in some type of a pump station and a grinder and pump sewage back up the hill, it's going to cost more, and frankly, again, this was offered 3.5 years ago, and I'm not, I get what you're saying, Mr. Messner, and I was going to ask the same question of why don't we approach them, but
because number one, we didn't approach these individuals.
I
They
get it.
approached us and asked for
But
it.
didn't we send letters out to everybody?
We sent letters out to everybody,
So
yes.
everybody was duly notified.
Correct.
And we had them all wrote up once, and then we had to
At
take
the
them all back
11th
out
hour
again.
and 59th minute, this group's come forward, gives us an opportunity to get the sewer in that much more area of the city.
So
So,
the other part of this is that, if we don't do something, we'll be landlocked from the sewer completely. And if something does happen, because most of the homes back there, like I said, are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, okay? And, the lateral's already there.
Explain to me,
Well,
what
the
do you
stub
mean
is
by
there.
landlocked?
Because it's a dead end.
Well, because everything south of us will be on sewer.
Well,
We'll
yeah.
be the only 2 streets not on sewer at all. And
It
if
doesn't
some-
have sewer,
If someone,
that's right.
yeah, if someone
Highway.
mandates that we have to
Between
go
them and
on
the highway.
sewer,
Yeah, but that's not running uphill, though. That's not running downhill.
either way, it's not landlocked.
No, what I'm saying, Scott, is
Yeah, I understand where you're going.
there is going to have to be pumped up.
Not off a little.
What, you mean to tell me that it runs from the highway south, it runs uphill there? It runs uphill, it don't run downhill.
It,
Does it? It runs downhill from their cul-de-sac to Shellhart.
I would imagine it depends on the depth of the sewer line to begin with. Anyways, my suggestion would be
Yeah,
get with Mr.
I've seen
Fowler,
it before.
see what you guys can do with the petition,
So-
having the property
so it
owner
runs
sign it.
uphill.
And at that point in time, then he can pass that information on to council, and we can start to truly address this. You have something? Give your name and address to the stenographer.
Just Mike Cassidy, 3535 Little Boulevard. And just to clarify, because you keep saying we didn't take you up on this, because I still don't want to tie in, and that's been the whole offer up to this point. I don't want to crush my septic and spend that money, but but I'm more than willing to pay the assessment to get the stuff in place.
Right.
So, just to clarify that, this isn't something new from day one, but from day one, you guys kept telling me I have to tie in and crush my septic and spend 20 grand or whatever it's going to be to get rid of something that's working perfectly. But it makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. You're tearing up the road, just run the pipes down there. I'm willing to pay that assessment, but I do not want to tie in today. And so just so you understand that we're not asking for, I thought we were doing a good thing.
No.
Just for clarification.
I'm not trying to look for a freebie here. We were willing to pay the assessment to get the pipe down there, but none of us were see a need to actually tie in, and I didn't realize that was part of this deal. That
Mr. Cassidy, but you don't understand that you never had to tie in.
Exactly.
You could have had the sewer, and then when it came time, because you weren't the mandated area.
But when it was explained for us before, if it came down the street, we had to tie in, and that's when we said.
But that was always incorrect.
One
So it's
thing
been a
that we
misunderstanding from day one, but just so you know, we're not.
One thing that we try to get across to the residents is just because your neighbor gives you information doesn't make it the truth. If you want the true facts, then you need to contact the city, contact the school, whichever area it pertains to get the real numbers,
But
the real
even
facts.
Even you earlier tonight was saying we have to tie in.
No.
Well, we were discussing you guys tying in.
So when I was talking about you had to tie in, frankly, I don't care when you tie in. What I care about is when the city gets their money back.
And that's it. We're willing to pay for the pipe down the street.
And so that's what I was wondering, and you've kind of cleared that up. And one of the things that I was trying to talk about here, as far as how do we do it so that you can put it on your tax duplicate, because $11,500 is a chunk of change to come up with. I don't care who it is, so that's why we were trying to figure that out.
Okay, but just so.
Yep.
And if this does move forward, obviously the homeowners or parcel owners would have the option of whatever the figure ends up being, whether it's 11.5, 12.5, wherever it ends up, they would have the option to pay that up front. By being put on your tax duplicate, then you're going to be charged interest over the next 20 years. So that will be up to you, but just so you have all the information.
Now, I do have a question on that. It was my understanding that everybody that was having to tie in now, the mandated area, got assessed. And if they tied in, even if they weren't mandated, they could be assessed if they agreed to be getting in on the sewer system. Now we're saying that anybody that does it 5 years from now can be assessed at that point?
That's what I was asking.
That's not what was the way. It's you tie in now and you can get assessed is the way I always understood it. Those people.
No.
Everybody else, they had to pay it up front when they decided to do it when it was an option.
We gave them the option to be charged now, and that's what they declined, was the option to be charged. It wasn't necessarily to be tying in, it was to be charged, to have it placed on the duplicate.
So they could pay for it now and not do it.
You could pay lump sum now and not do it, yeah. Mm-hmm. Or you could be assessed now and not do it if you're in the fringe, if you're in the
mandated area,
the non-mandated area. Mandated area, we can't. That's a health department.
Right.
They're going to be mandated to tie in. If you're not within the mandated area, if you agreed to be assessed, that meant that you're paying for your sewer improvement now, but it's going to be put on your duplicate.
When we did all these figures and everything, all this was figured into it. All these people that said they wanted in, and then all the people that said, no, we don't, like Golf Course Drive didn't want in, Brookside wasn't going to be in, Little wasn't going to be in. All these other people, they took those numbers away, so we did not have those to be able to use to set a price for everybody overall.
Yeah, so your point is, as we decrease benefit units,
the prices went up.
Right. We also took out things that we were building, but the less people, the more cost.
But the final assessment will be once all the costs, the interest rate, and everything's set. That's when the final assessment dollar amount will
come back to council.
Yeah.
Later this year.
So
and we can
if they tie in,
and we can lower it,
or pay for the assessment piece then it could help impact the other, is where you're going with it, yes.
All I got to say is we better have some money left for the rest of Norton to be able to get some help too when it comes time.
And I think that's the general idea, was to try to come up with something in the future to be able to have kind of set tap-ins and stuff like that, to be able to give people at least an idea, a ballpark of what it would cost.
And I do have another question. I keep seeing 11.5. I thought it was 11.2.
11.5 is what you set in your tap-in ordinance. So for the people who aren't being assessed, it's 11.5. 11.2 was the tentative assessment. So we put the people that didn't agree to be assessed are paying 11.5 as a tap-in right away.
Mr. President, I think for clarification too, I think we're talking, every 20 years keeps coming up, I believe it's 30.
Yeah.
If I'm correct.
I thought it was 32.
Yeah, we have a 30-year assessment plan.
Well, we can set the assessment any way we want to if it's
On a petition project, you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other piece of that is a benefit if we approve running the sewer down through there. Another benefit to tying in now would be Barberton is at a reduced cost right now for the Nash Heights area. So rather than paying $1,600 tap-in, obviously it would be $800. So
well, not if it's a separate. If it's a
but
separate.
it's still Nash Heights area.
Yeah, it would really, I mean, the language in the MOUs or the agreements written to talk about mandated projects, I don't want to speculate as to how they'll interpret whether that's a mandated project or not.
So they might.
They might. I don't
Might
know.
not.
Might not.
I just want to be upfront. I mean,
Right.
It's,
Nope. Understood. Jack?
What would be, as Mr. Messner suggested there, how would people feel, how would y'all feel about allowing? I can't speak to you and look this way.
That's all right.
How would you feel about offering the same deal to Brookside?
We are
Court?
not going to open this whole thing up. These people came to us. We've been through this multiple times for 3.5 years. If the people from Brookside or anywhere else in the fringe area
Gave us a
wants to get a
petition
petition
tomorrow.
and come forward, then we'll address it. But to go back to square one, no, we've been there, done that too many times.
2 or 3 times.
3
So-
years, 6 years.
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion on this? All right. Moving on then. Unfinished business. Anything else? Any new business?
Mr. President, there was a letter that was circulated. I just wonder if, and I see Mr. Fowler has stepped out. It was concerning dumping of some material on around the Knollbrook area, and it was circulated to all the Knollbrook residents. I understand. I passed it on to him. I didn't see it in our packet tonight. I just wondered if there was any resolution on that.
Say again, Dan, I didn't understand.
I'm sorry. There was a letter that was sent, circulated to the Knollbrook residents.
By whom?
That's the problem. It was anonymous.
Oh.
And so, but the residents all received this, saying that there was some contaminated ground or earth or something was put in there, and there was concern about the drinking water. So I was asking for some clarification on that. There's all sorts of detail. I did pass that along to Mr. Fowler, but since he stepped out, I'm not quite sure where that's going right now.
Mayor, you know anything on it?
Well, I'm aware of the letter, and I'm aware of the
allegation
emails,
in the
the
letter.
emails and so forth. That
Right.
were
The
sent.
allegation in the
And-
letter was that it was dirt from the Nash Heights project, and a resident had contacted to have fill dirt placed in their yard. And I think the argument in the letter was that since Nash Heights was condemned for drinking water issues, right, because of the effluent coming out of the pipes, that soil somehow became contaminated, and that contaminated soil would somehow impact the drinking water in Knollbrook. And so I know a number of residents contacted the Summit County Health District as well, based on that letter. They've assured us that the soil, go ahead, Robert, if you want to.
Right.
it's not contaminated dirt because it's fill dirt, number one. Number two, if it was contaminated, we would have other obligations. And so the dirt from Nash Heights was excavated from the trenches in the roadway, most of it to install the sanitary sewer. And the difference between the water aquifer contamination versus dirt contamination is significant.
Right.
Again, this letter was sent out anonymous. How often do we have to go through this in this city? If you stand behind something, if you believe something to be the truth, then you're going to sign it. People like this, they put the false information out there and they try to get people fearful. And you strike fear in something and it automatically people get a negative vibe on it, and it doesn't matter what people tell you. That's all they hear in the back of their head is those negative things. So if you want the truth, again, if you want the real figures, the real information, contact the city, contact the health department, contact EPA. You can't believe things that are posted on Facebook or any other social media thing. And you definitely can't put any weight behind a letter that the people didn't even feel enough confidence to sign it. So, again, if you have questions, concerns, just contact the city. Contact your council person. We'll get the answers for you if we don't have them.
The last sentence there pretty well explains it.
All right. Any other?
Yes, there were a couple other things. The T21 legislation from the Summit County Public Health District, I distributed some information on that. They're asking for us to do a local ordinance, I believe, and that has been addressed in some other communities. I'm just bringing that up for council to be aware, and that's going to be coming around again. I'd like, what it is to limit the sales of cigarettes to 21 and older. And they're addressing that in the city of Akron. They're kicking that around currently, and some other communities.
All right. If you would, Carrie, add that to council's next work session. Yes.
And the medication take-back day is going to be at the medicine shop with our police and the Norton Kiwanis on Saturday, April 28th, from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. And it's where we will take back any medication that's old, outdated, unwanted, narcotic, non-narcotic, whatever. You just can't have a pressurized canister, something that would be exploding in an incinerator, because that's where it's going, and no sharps, so no needles.
Will you guys be taking back guns? In the past, they've taken unwanted guns, ammunition, things like that.
I guess as a pharmacist, I forget about those things, but yes, we will. And I'm hoping that they won't be bringing any unexploded ordinances that are about this big like they happened the first time. So it's a really entertaining way to run a pharmacy, but we've agreed to do that, yes.
Okay. If you do have a unexploded ordinance that is of considerable size,
you'll be the second person to know.
Call the police department, ask them what's the best way to handle this, and we'll see what can be worked out. Make sure the guns are unloaded too when you would bring them in.
Mr. President, I
Yes.
have a couple I'll just tag on to Mr. Krant. I have, first of all, Green Up Norton Day. It's the Community Work Day through the City Administration Center. That is also Saturday, April 28th from 8:30 until 1 o'clock. We have a variety of things planned for that day as well, but it does start at 8:30 in the morning on Saturday, April 28th. We have information on that on our website. We also have the individual volunteer registration form, which is required for each volunteer. It's a City of Norton, Ohio waiver of liability for the Green Up Norton Day. That too is located and available on our website. The only other thing I have is, I know you were talking about social media. I was asked by Chief D'Alessandro of the Norton Police Department to try and make residents and businesses aware that we do have a Nixle. That is a notification sign-up that you can go on our City of Norton, www.cityofnorton.org, city webpage, and then go to the notification sign-up button. And what that will do, if you sign up there, then during emergencies and so forth, of whether it's road closures or weather alerts, whatever that comes through the Norton Police Department, they will have a way of getting in contact with you to make you aware of what's going on in the community. Once again, it's www.cityofnorton.org, and go to the notification sign up button.
Well, is that via email or text or
That
voice?
That should be text, I believe, but
Could be
yeah.
either email or
Oh,
text.
does it go email as well? Okay, because I always get mine through the text message.
And keep in mind, if it is a text, then depending how many texts your plan allows, there could be fees associated with that. So, anything else, Mayor?
That's all I have. Thank you.
And I have one last.
Yes.
Is the community prayer breakfast is going to be Thursday, May 3rd, and this year it will be at Johnson United Methodist Church. I will promise to have tickets that I didn't bring tonight with me next Monday, and I've been reminded that a few people here wanted those. The cost is $10, and the featured speaker is going to be priest, Father Norm Douglas from over in Akron. He's one of the co-founders of Heart to Heart Ministries. It will begin at 7 a.m. We'll start serving food at 6:45 a.m. and conclude promptly at 8:30. Thank you.
Anyone else?
We're a little jumbled here. I have a topic for next work session. I don't know if that's where we're at or.
All right.
At Mr. Fowler's request or suggestion, I would like at the next work session for council to start looking into our ordinance pertaining to garbage in yards.
Okay, garbage in yards. As we speak up here, if you're talking sideways, the mic kind of picks up a little bit versus if you're talking straight onto it. I know it's kind of weird when you're talking to somebody to your right or left. You want to just naturally look at them, but the recording will pick up better if you're talking straight into the mic. But yes, I saw that back and forth, and I agree that ordinance is definitely worth adding to council's next workshop there to see how we want to handle that.
Thanks.
Any other topics for next work session? All right. Public comments. Mr. Lafredo, was that did we cover what you wanted to speak about, or was, okay. All right. Meeting adjourned.
I think I'm crazy.
More than likely.
You don't like me.
Where's Nobra?
No, my name's on there.
It's not bringing any brain in my head, Nobra.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Well,
Third ward?
I mean, right? Huh?
No,
well, I mean,
Cassidy?
he spoke during,
Right there
Yeah.
explains.
as we discussed this. You really didn't do the public comment, but if you want that for the spelling or anything?
Not DENTS.
I think it's behind me. No book behind me.
I don't know where that happened. These wrong words. It's not residents. They should.
4266 no book.